Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's TX141 here, bringing you another Ace in the Day gameplay for the arcade mode of War Thunder. Today we'll be reviewing the Yak-1B. To give you a small historical overview on the Yakovlev Yak-1 in general, the Yakovlev Yak-1 was designed by Alexander Yakovlev and introduced to the Soviet Air Force in 1940. From the outset, this design of a low-altitude dogfighter was highly praised by its pilots, seeing as its maneuverability was very high, up to an altitude of about 5,000 meters. Additionally, the pilots praised its agility in the fact that the lightweight composite frame meant that the plane could accelerate very fast both on the flat and in a dive. The Yakovlev Yak-1 was so popular that it started the Yak family of aircraft, including the Yak-3, which is an extended and uprated version of the Yak-1M, the Yak-7B, which is the trainer version of the Yak-1B, and finally the Yak-9, a more medium to high altitude version of the Yak-1. The version we see here, the Yak-1B, has an unofficial designation of B to represent three major changes. Number 1, the bubble type canopy. Number 2, the introduction of a single 12.7mm machine gun rather than the two 7.62mm machine guns based above the prop. And finally, the uprating of the engine for a Klimov M105 PF engine, which was specifically designed for low altitude fighting. Ergo, the Yak-1B was introduced into service in August 1942. So how does the plane perform in game exactly? Well, as you can see from that initial kill on the MC200 Series 7, the Yak-1B packs a rather effective armament. The single 20mm cannon in prop and the 12.7 above the prop make very short work of your opponents, so long as you can get an effective firing solution. Many of you will have played the Yak-7B already, as it is the plane you have to purchase before you can try to unlock the Yak-1B. And let me say from the onset that the two planes are very similar, but at the same time share differences. In particular, whereas the Yak-7B was more of a casual trainer plane, as noted in my review, which you may view in the top right corner of your screen, the Yak-1B is the culmination of your training, requiring you to be a little bit more careful with the trigger finger due to the fact the Yak-1B has one less machine gun and a lot less ammunition. And as you can see here, I'm quite carelessly spraying at this BF-110, and in my second burst I decide to get in as close as possible and aim specifically for the rear gunner and the pilot, knocking them both out to achieve my second kill. You're very limited in your ammunition capacity of the Yak-1B. The fact that you only have 200 rounds of 12.7mm machine gun ammo and 120 rounds of 20mm cannon ammo. As a result, you've got to be careful and choose your shots wisely. Rather than use the 12.7mm, from my experience, as a weapon which can take apart lightly armoured planes, instead you have to use it to soften up your target and take out any given target using the 20mm cannon. Now in this ground strike gameplay on the map Paradise Island, I'm using the following setup: 500 meter gun convergence, 30-minute fuel load, omni-purpose ammunition in the 20mm cannon, and finally air target ammunition in the 12.7mm machine gun. With the guns being mounted in the prop, gun convergence is less of a concern here, but the fact that all the effective burst mass of the machine gun and the cannon being concentrated in a very limited cone, even without the upgrades, which act to restrict this cone even further. And as I say that, I'm about to dive down this lag-free, who seems rather oblivious to my presence. As you can see, we gain speed rather rapidly in a dive, even though it's only over a very short altitude range, and we can get in behind our target very fast, picking the right moment to open fire. With the initial burst damaging their rudder, I go in for a second burst as their mid-turn, effectively finishing off that plane to achieve my third kill, at which point I turn around to focus down the Su-2 that's raking the airfield. Now what's quite nice about the Yak-1B from my experience is its overall versatility. It's not the perfect dogfighter in the fact it's not the ultimate turn fighter, nor is it the ultimate energy fighter. However, you can mix and match your tactics to suit your foe. As you can see, even though the Su-2 is a ground attacker, I'm wary of engaging it head on because of its four 7.62mm machine guns, and so I climb up and loop over on top of the Su-2, although I still have to be wary of their rear gunner. My initial burst fails to kill the rear gunner, so I decide to dive underneath them, and come up behind as close as possible, restricting the amount of time that the rear gunner has to shoot at me, and obtaining my 4th kill, because at that range we can easily kill their pilot. Now having to reload the cannon, and you'll note during the course of this video that I have to reload on multiple occasions, sometimes at rather inconvenient occasions. The Yak-1B's ammo count restricts your ability to spray and hold down the trigger. Instead, patience is a virtue with this plane, especially as it's going to be the genesis of your tactics for further iterations of the Yak, especially the Yak-3 and the Yak-9, both planes which by comparison with their like-for-like tier counterparts have very little ammunition. Still, that's not to say that you cannot have fun in the Yak-1B, and I will be honest, this is becoming one of my favourite planes, not just for our arcade mode, but for realistic mode as well. Still, we're here to focus on arcade mode, and as I make my way over to this SU-2, I noticed that a fellow SPD-3 Dauntless is trying to engage them. However, I know the Dauntless is made more for a dive bomber role, so I decide in a minute to help out by trying to engage this SU-2, simply because I know the Dauntless needs to spend their time on a more effective tactic, i.e. going for the ground targets. Preparing myself, I roll over and dive down on the SU-2, with a clear shot on the pilot, obtaining my ace. Of course that could be reflected as a kill steal, but I really want the win in this game, especially after losing 22 games in a row prior to this match. With the SB-2M coming in fast, I managed to take out their tail control, although the SB-2M seems to glide away quite au naturel. As a result, as I come round, my lack of situational awareness almost catches me out, with the fact I start to take light arms fire from an unknown plane. I soon realise it's an SU-2MV5. Unfortunately, the SU-2 was rather impatient with their trigger finger, overshoots, and I can use the Yak's agility to come down on them, killing their rear gunner. Still, just goes to show if you don't look behind you, you'll probably get caught out in the end. I run out of machine gun ammo as I do severe damage to their right wing, and as a result I decide to choose my next burst carefully, using the rest of my cannon ammunition to take out the tail control, and then using my reloaded 12.7mm machine gun to set the main fuel tank of that plane on fire. Having achieved my 6th kill, I note that the SB-2M is still gliding about and doing casual damage to our ground units, so as a result, rather than go directly in for the kill with the 12.7mm machine gun, I decide to wait a little bit longer and open up with a 20, causing their left wing to completely disintegrate and the left engine to fail. At this point I know that SB-2M has to go into the ground, with only one engine working, and that will probably not be working too well, and also a lack of tail control. It's highly unlikely the SB-2M will be able to pull out of that gradual descent towards the ground, and as you're about to see, I've just achieved my 7th kill. So now making my way over to the other side of the map, seeing as Paradise Island is a very large ground strike map, I take the time to check my ammo count, and I note that I've got over 50% of my machine gun ammunition and just shy of the full capacity of cannon ammunition. As a result, that does not necessitate the need for a reload. However, I would highly recommend for those who are new to the Yak-1B to make sure you're always topped up when you get the time. For the simple reason you never know how many planes you're going to have to dogfight with in a given engagement, and the amount of ammunition you have might cost you the plane. However, as we can note from making our way over to the new theatre of operations, we're gaining speed very well while still gaining altitude, reaching a speed of 410 km an hour already as we check the scoreboard. Ergo, what I do enjoy about the Yak-1B is its ability to engage any fighter so long as you've got your speed somewhere between 300 and 500 km an hour. Although mid-dive, the Yak-1B still retains decent control up to about 600 km an hour, which is its maximum speed historically, or around about that. Moreover, while you'll not be out-turning every plane you go up against, your main rivals such as the Spitfire Mark II and the Messerschmitt 109 ML3 will not be able to compare with you in terms of your overall versatility, with the fact that you have a decent turn radius all the way up to 5,000 meters altitude, and also the fact that you've got a decent dive speed, a decent roll rate that remains consistent at higher speeds, and also just an overall hard working engine, which means that you can accelerate away or into the engagement very quickly. Still, You do have some downsides to all this. Your climb rate is subpar by comparison with your contemporaries. As you see here, I'm having trouble even getting up to 3,000 meters where other planes of the tier would be able to a lot faster. Planes such as PBYs and Junkers 88 bombers, as you can see in this game, will be able to mock you as you climb up towards them, because your performance will gradually drop off at about 5,000 meters, an altitude which bombers strive towards. I know that I cannot climb away from this I-16, so I go for the next best thing and engage them head on, taking off their right wing and achieving my 8th kill. I believe the I-16 had either run out of energy or was trying to feint a head on pass. However, we were fortunate enough to be able to use our cannons to sufficient effect. So rather than go head on into some more freshly spawned planes, I decide to turn away and keep my eyes on our fellow ground units, noting the presence of a lag-3 who's trying to break away from the engagement and is rather oblivious yet again to my presence. Coming in a gradual dive, I wait for the opportune moment to make all of the ammunition count. Achieving my 9th kill as that lag-3 becomes a flaming wreck. And so, using all the dive speed I have and the ever building speed of my plane, due to its lightweight frame, I note a P-26 and a lag-3 in the distance, and I believe the lag-3 is trying to converge on the back of our F-2A Buffalo. As a result, I try to give a helping hand, although I'm too late in this regard. Still, one can always avenge a teammate. And as that lag-3 burns away, gradually reaching its ultimate fate, I achieve my double ace. At which point I decide not to turn back and engage any more enemy planes, for the simple reason that there's a large population of enemy fighters and I've probably put myself at an insurmountable risk. As a result, I see a Junkers 88 in the distance taking out one of our bases, and although my teammate in the Spitfire Mark 1, as it turns out, is trying to take them down, I'm getting rather infuriated at seeing a Junkers 88 having a free ride. Not to say that our Spitfire pilot is a terrible player, but seeing as I really wanted to try and win this match, I know I need to intervene where necessary. As a result, I hold down the overdrive a little bit on the engine, something this plane did not historically have, i.e. wet, and go for a beam shot. Achieving a hit on one of the gunners, and also a critical hit on the Junkers 88 in general, I noticed that our Spitfire is still not able to take out the Junkers 88, so I loop round for a final pass, aiming specifically for the left wing, causing the left wing to shatter off and achieving my 11th and final kill for this gameplay. Because as you're going to see in a minute, despite my intentions of taking out every ground attack plane where possible, and just any fighters raking ground units, I still couldn't do enough, even when I tried to help out my teammates in taking down some of the more heavily armed or dangerous targets. So 23 losses in a row on the Sturmovik Ace event was quite infuriating, as I didn't get a single times 4 that day. Still, I had fun nonetheless, especially seeing as I got to spend that time flying probably one of my favourite planes now. So it's time to look at the scores. So we can see from that game that we managed to accrete 11 kills and 1 assist, 2 of those kills which we can say that we shared with a teammate. Additionally, in terms of earnings, we managed to get 15,500 silver lions and just shy of 1,300 research points, which is a very nice haul for this plane. I still have one upgrade to go, which is the new 20mm cannon upgrade. However, I feel that the need for this upgrade is mitigated by the fact, due to your limited armament and amount of ammunition, you'll need to get in close anyway to your target, reducing the overall spread of your 20mm cannon and your 12.7mm machine gun. Ergo, in short, the Yak-1B is a deadly fighter. However, due to its lack of ammo storage, you'll need to get into close range before opening fire. Moreover, its lack of armament means that pursuing heavy targets such as Junkers 88s or PBYs may not be the most effective way of playing. Although if you aim for specific points such as engines and tail controls, you can still do a huge amount of damage. And using your versatility against any enemy fighter will prove their undoing. So I've been TX141. If you enjoyed this video, why not leave a like, comment or subscribe for future content on my channel. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care and have fun in the skies.